up, everybody? Let's put down the music, and that just snuck up on me. There we go. All right. Over here, closing out programs, making sure that everything's going right, and the live stream snuck up on me. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode 120. Yes, you heard that right. 120 consecutive Saturdays. Weekly live stream. We've been doing this for well over 2 years. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the Camera Junkie live stream. My name's Lewis, also known as Mr. Camera Junkie. And if it is your first time, please introduce yourself in the chat so that you can get the nice Camera Junkie welcome. And as always, let's see who's here right off the bat. We have Paul, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for stopping by as always. We have David Harvey also hanging out with us. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. We have Randy hanging out saying hello to everyone. And Paul also saying hello back to Randall. As you can see, it's all that community vibe here. So please make sure to introduce yourself. And Sammy Superstar. Sammy, it's been a while. I've missed you, bro. I've missed you. But I understand because I see you out there doing your thing, getting that content out there. And I am a firm believer, and I understand that you can't both be an audience member and a on stage, so to speak. Can't be the cast and an audience member at the same time. So sometimes we have to go into the dark, so to speak, so that we can pump out our own content, which I can see that you've obviously been doing. So yep, as you can see, everybody's still saying hi to everyone. It says that small rig t-shirt is fire. Well, thank you. It was a gift from Doc Rock, and I just got lucky because it just didn't fit him. So he got it. It was gifted to him, and it was not of his size, and so happens to fit me perfectly. So he was like, there you go. I was like, winning. But I absolutely love it. And it's not cotton. It's like this interesting like spandex type of material, so it stretches where it needs to stretch and is very breathable. So I just have an undershirt under it. It's been a very good shirt, but usually don't wear it because it's not part of the Camera Junkie brand. But I do love small rig products, so I cannot lie. All right. And we're all saying what's up to each other. Okay, well, for those of you who weren't here last week, I was going over my video podcasting kind of workflow with Final Cut Pro, and all to have come up with a problem where I couldn't really show the audio side of it, which is very important when it comes to editing anything, especially podcasts. So with that being said, I was able to take care of that and get the system audio to come up. And if you want to know how we got to the point where we're starting at today, you can go check out last week's live stream where I show the whole process of how I set up all my files and get everything onto the timeline for an even more complex type of live stream with multiple people. This is just a simple, I think about 15-minute clip of a live stream that I've just cut out, and I was really surprised, on another note, how long ago this actually happened, that I was like, what? It felt like it was just the other day. But no, this recording, and now I'm going through the process of showing you what I would do to actually edit. So with that, let's get into it. We're gonna go and move on to the Final Cut Pro scene. Where's my mouse? There's my mouse. All right. Boom, and here we go. And let me go ahead and click that there. All right, we can bring this here. That's perfect. That is perfection right there. All right, so I can make sure that we're still seeing the live stream. All right, and right here, I basically have 22 minutes of footage, roughly, on the timeline, and you can hear it clearly, perfectly. It's very loud. I'm actually gonna bring that down just a bit. for you guys. Just adjusting audio here. Okay. And because of it, I'm also gonna scooch down the music just a bit more. Okay, so now our audio levels should be good. And this is one thing that I'm going to turn off right now, which is audio scrubbing, which is so that I could just move my mouse over Final Cut Pro for the time being. A point that I want to make and emphasize on is that we're going to be doing an edit. So because we're doing an edit, I can't sit here and possibly think that I can use wireless headphones. It's a no-no. So right now it's very convenient. It gives me the ability to move around, but it does create a latency between the signal that the computer is producing to what I'm actually hearing. Now, Final Cut Pro is actually pretty good when it comes to actually hearing the things and it being in sync, even though you're on earbuds or AirPods or however it is. But the problem is that I have a Mac Studio with 64 gigabytes of RAM, so that it's like top tier, designed for editing, but I will literally be hindering it because I would be putting the entire editing process on the Bluetooth signal, which, believe it or not, is still not even the best on the Mac Studio, right? And that latency, what happens is that when I hit the space bar to actually hear what's going on with the edit, it has to wait sometimes even up to a full second before it can start sending the signal to my ear and have it in sync with what the playhead is going to do. So because of it, we're going to have to shut off these AirPods and go to our trusty cans. You know what? This is completely on a different note, but I'm gonna go to my overhead shot. This has been like the best case for AirPods because it's got these magnets right here. Let me zoom in a bit. It's got these magnets right here and a clip that is actually repelling each other. So as soon as I hit the button, they just flip open. I can't tell you how convenient that is because it allows me to use my AirPods with one hand. So I'm ready to pull them out. Just wanted to share that with you. This case is like legit. I got two of them. We're back. All right, I'm gonna check the messages real quick. That's always a great way to grab some new gear. Alright, we're pretty much all caught up. Oh, it's telling me that we cannot hear. Testing. Okay. We should have all systems go back up. As soon as I turned off the AirPods. Paul, let me know on Discord if there's still a loud buzz, because I just got that message. Let me know. Oh, it's gone? Okay, perfect. Yeah. That was a whole mess. It was sending it back to Ecamm. So as soon as I put the audio where it was supposed to go, we're good to go. I can hear the music. I can see the levels going. So it's feedback sound. Apologies for that. Another reason why you shouldn't use AirPods. Just another one, right? You always see me even with the in-ear or the in-ear monitor over here to the side, but it has to be wired because even that will just cause all of this. So all right, so now let's get to it. I'm going to click into Final Cut, and here we are. Basically, this is the beginning and the ending of the segment of podcast that I recorded in November. And that's what I'm going back to. It was November when I recorded this. I'm like, oh my God, how is just like another one, so to speak. For those of you who know, you know what that joke's about. So it's just another one. All right. All right, so let's get into it. It's my podcast. It's just basically me. So now I'm going to have to listen to what I said and see if I made any sense. And if I have some ahs, and everything like that, there are some programs that you can use out there that will get rid of them, like this script. I haven't been so proficient with this script for the one reason, and for that reason, I'm actually not utilizing it for like the word removal, because I still have to end up going into Final Cut Pro once I export the XML file and kind of adjust it. So I found it that if I'm even doing that, is just another added step when I can just hear it initially and remove it that one time as I'm clearing it out. So that's part of my workflow when it comes to editing, especially in Final Cut Pro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it right off the bat, and I'm going to detach the audio, because I'm basically already at that point if you saw anything of last week's live stream. So now that I have the audio detached, I have it completely separate, and it allows me to manipulate it however I like. This really comes into play when you have multiple people on a podcast, but because it's myself, it's basically just cutting and putting together something coherent from whatever it is that I said about the ZV-1F camera, which was what I believe is the subject of that soliloquy. Okay, so now that we've separated it, what would be the next thing I was doing? Oh, I wanted to show you that I kind of already zoomed in. This is set to 113. This is the live stream, right? Now with Ecamm Live, you have isolated video. So with the isolated video, you actually have the ability to get a clean file. This was recorded in November before I was even using that in the beta program. So I have to utilize the file that's on my computer that has all of the, like, as you can see, the borders and everything like that, because I want to kind of get rid of that for the video podcast and make it whatever I want. I'm just zooming in to 113, and that pretty much just removes the border and gives me pretty much the same image, just a little bit more cropped in. But I could also go to 115, and it's pretty much just the same. So it's really up to you. And then you have the ability to, like recenter or address that if you desire. The more you zoom in, the more capability or movement you're able to do within the shot itself. All right, now there's a shortcut which is Command Plus, and the Command Plus, let me just confirm, yep, expands the timeline. So that's what we do to actually just stretch this out to get a better view over the audio signal. But another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this little film strip section, and I'm going to change it to select the display option. That's just a little bit more visual for the audio. So as you can see, the difference between that one is basically showing you how big do you want to see your audio levels, and this last one is like no visuals, only audio signal, but I still like to see, the corresponding video above. Okay, now that I have that set to the way I like it, this section here is basically the difference of the timeline. You can use that, right? But that's the shortcut that I had told you from before, which I will repeat. Control Z will fit it no matter where you are in the timeline, so that you can see the entirety of the timeline within the screen that you're working on. And just doing the control plus or control negative or control minus is basically the way that you can zoom in and out of the timeline in Final Cut Pro. I have these all set up on my Stream Deck, so for that reason you'll see it going in and out. I just want to give you the heads up of what's actually happening. And with that being said, I'm going to move us all the way to the front. You can hit the up arrow on your keyboard and it will take you to the furthest most point of your latest cut. So for example, if I were to just simply cut here and my cursor's here, by hitting the up arrow, it would bring me to the latest cut point, right? And if I hit it again, it will take me all the way to, it will take me to the next cut point. So depending on where you are and how you want to maneuver, that's just a simple trick that we can use. But showing you with no cut points here, all right, we can hear what's going on. I'm just going to select all, and then I'm going to hit the shortcut where I'm just trimming to end. We can sit here and go through and listen to it right now, but I can see a big section like this and I know that I'm not gonna use that. Maybe I even messed up and I restarted. But it's as simple as just continuing along and cutting it. If you were doing a podcast, or maybe, for example, maybe you're saying you're not doing a podcast and just giving this tip. If you were doing an edited video where you knew that you took pauses intentionally between your scenes in what we call the smile and hold method, then I would just go ahead of time and just start removing all those chunks. Now that could be a time where a program like this script could be very useful to you, because it won't be messing up the ins and out points of the cuts of like filler words. But at that point, that could just be a completely different workflow for pre-recorded content. But this is a conversation, so let's go ahead and have a listen to what I said. See? Exactly what I said. I totally bombed the entry, which why I saw that we had such a big gap. I can now just highlight these and just hit Command X, which removes them completely. Command X can take anything off of your timeline. And okay, we're gonna go in here, and I wanted to start right at where I start talking. So I am gonna trim that little section, and we're gonna hit play. See, I'm listening to it, and I don't know if it sounds like the way that I would like it to flow, especially as an edit. So let me listen to it again. So one thing that I've been doing actively with the help of Doc Rock is something that we call eating our ums. So when you talk, we're very prolific in saying filler words like ums and stuff like that, and I work on trying not to do that. And when I don't do that, I have these elongated pauses, because it's a technique that, you know, we do that's called like eating your ums, right? You swallow them. So that pause is something that doesn't really sound natural when it comes to the way that you speak, but when you present, it's something that now is kind of part of the way that I talk. And with that being said, it creates these gaps. So when I see them in the edit, I'm going to want to get rid of them or shorten them, because breaths are something that's part of our speech, but I also use those to actually hide where I mess up. So if there's a section later on in the podcast where I just want to remove the section because I don't think that it really brings value to the point, or I'm squirreling as far as like losing concentration or taking the conversation away from the subject that's at hand, then at that moment I can just remove it and use a breath to kind of mask the cut on the audio side. Because even though the video on top could look busted completely, right now I am editing only the audio and paying attention to that. I'm just gonna go here and cut. See, that was I ate a So it's not so much the entirety of the breath, right? Or even the sound, but just like half of this chunk is a that I just discreetly swallowed. So once again, I will just cut that in half and then kind of listen to it again. And I don't know if you hear what I hear, but that just flowed well enough. And whenever I make a cut, I also replay it so that I can listen for pops and like bangs of audio clips that could be like clashing. And if I do come across that, then there's just a way that I mitigate that. That actively took way too long to activate. So once again, just highlight, chop that section off. Or another way that you can do it, because of the way that it's highlighted, you can do it kind of in reverse. Like let's say I want to get rid of this gap here or a portion of it, I can just blade it, and because this section stays highlighted, just bring my cursor over here and then have my, you know, like trim. So I'm just gonna trim it to where my cursor is. And now oh man, you know what, I messed up, and I'm gonna own it. Okay, I messed up because I'm using the audio file from the original file that I was supposed to pull the isolated audio, because this has music playing in it as well. And I was listening to it, I was like, where is that extra music coming from? And it's coming from this file. So we all make mistakes, a learning experience here. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to, how would I do this? Okay, let's do this. I'm going to just kind of backtrack completely. Right? Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to go through the file again and skim what are the beginning and ending points of the podcast that I had already trimmed off the beginning and end of the entire live stream. So I'm going to make it the size, and I'm just going to take Command Z, and I'm going to Command Z this entire thing to the point. You see, we're going back through every step. Perfect. Okay. Why did I do this? Because I wanted to get back to this portion, which has the entirety of the podcast. So now I'm going to click on here, which is the end is snapping. And the snapping is going to allow the snapping of the end. As soon as I have that there and selected, I'm going to put a marker on it. Come on. Take one frame in, marker on it. Gonna hit the top arrow, go all the way, and put a marker at the beginning. I'm gonna explain everything that I'm doing it while I'm doing it. Okay, let's shrinkify this a little bit. And now I'm gonna stretch this out full-length file. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to have the beginning and ending points of the entirety of this file. So now, even though this is the entire live stream again, those are the sections that I've already cut out, and I have points to where I can cut them again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down this file or this audio and just negate it completely, and this becomes the video only portion of the live stream. So now I need to connect the hard drive, or is it still connected? It's still connected. Good. Is it? It is, but it's not. So let's do this. Okay. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I am basically looking for my November file. That's 2021. I think this is it. Yep. Okay. That seems to be the file. So now I'm going to take the main mic and the secondary mic, which is the music. I'm going to take the main mic and drop it onto this timeline. We're waiting for it to upload. And boom, that looks good. And now hopefully the method to my madness is present. Now because I stretched it out and Ecamm is an exact synchronized file, once I stretch the file to its like entirety, it makes it super easy for me to just simply put it onto the timeline and drop it in there, and now everything is synced up. So now I can click on that first marker that I made, hit select all, and then I'm going to trim to that location. Boom. I'm gonna go to the other marker, select all, and I'm going to trim to that location. Testing, testing. Oh, no, I know. I have the scrubbing left off right now. If I were to press play. Oh, no, it's actually not playing. Why not? What's going on, Aiden? Okay, let me put on some cartoons real quick for Aiden. All right, that's sent. But Paul, now I'm just gonna ask you, Paul, did you hear before, right? We were hearing Final Cut. What happened? Okay, that's correct. Okay, a bit of troubleshooting. Now we're experiencing the same thing that we had last week. Oh, let me go into my preferences. Nope, not that one. That's Final Cut. Well, thank you for your patience, everyone, and thank you for informing me with the error here. I am checking my preferences right now, and I'm going into screen sharing. And the audio. Thank you for the information, Paul. I really do appreciate it. But the thing that I fixed and the setting that I clicked on is still set there. Let me see. On screen machine. Let me just try to re-enable it and see what's going on here. That's super interesting. That's so interesting. Why we're not hearing anything now. Here, let me just try this. I'm attempting to quit Final Cut Pro in its entirety and see if maybe we can get it to kick back on. But I don't think, I'm just letting everyone know, I don't think it's actually Final Cut Pro. I think it's something else that's going on because of the simple reason that I can still hear it. Like last week, I couldn't hear it and I couldn't see anything. But I still hear it today. So now I hear Final Cut Pro. Except now Ecamm is not picking it up as system audio. Let me see here. That sucks so bad. Because everything is set up the way that it should. Everything is set up the way that it should. And we no longer have system audio. And it looks like the only way that I can do it is by kind of like restarting Ecamm, which will kill the stream. If I would have known it would have been a semblance of this as a problem, I wouldn't even have, I would have just kept going with the music and then re-edited it on my own time. But I was trying to give you guys the most examples of all the nuances of all the little details that I do when it comes to editing this. Yeah, because it's not coming out of there. So system effects. Let me see something here once again. I'm back on Ecamm. Oh, even like everything. Like even my background videos turning off. What is happening? Okay, let me just try this one last thing here. It turns it off automatically. Okay, so what I did was I basically took this broadcast system audio and I turned it off. system. And I turn the system audio back on. Let me try this. Oh, that killed the music. What happened? Okay, I wasn't happy with that. Hi, Daniel. Thanks for stopping in. It's been a while, so what's up? Yeah, I could actually show you guys exactly what I'm doing right now. It might be more interesting than me just like pondering. But I'm here in Final Cut Pro. Let me bring my audio levels over here. I mean, not in Final Cut Pro, in Ecamm. And now I'm live demo mode. So right here, I'm looking at my audio. That's my microphone. It's my sound effects, the music. And system audio is there. I have it set to all the time. I was doing an edit and it just stopped playing the system audio. So now when I scrub on Final Cut or play, now it's playing. Back to it. That's it. Hey, I appreciate it, but no, right now I'm using a Zoom PodTrack P4 because my Rodecaster Pro is in the shop. Okay, but we're here. Not even going to worry about it. Okay, so now let's get out of live demo mode. We're going to close down the preferences. And we're going to get back to the edit. Okay. Boom. So, bigging that up. Start. Make sure it's in sync. Welcome to the camera. Perfect. Boom. Now we're in sync. Okay. Highlight all. We remove that. Let's make the size the way that I wanted it again. Enlarge that a bit. Okay. And let me go over the comments real quick. See exactly where we're at. Okay, we went past the feedback sound. That was when I got off the AirPods. All right, conversation. Yep, we're hearing it now. We're all catching up. Says Mr. Moderator fixed it with his Jedi tricks. That's funny. All right, so we're hearing it. We're good to go. All right. All right, back to FCP. Boom. Come to the CameraJunkie pop. Oh, let me do one last thing. Bring back my audio levels over here so that I can monitor them because Jess. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and go over it again. Welcome to... Oh, okay. Here's another tip. The reason why I always have snapping turned off, which if you can see, this is snapping right here, boom, is because it tries to snap to frames and we're doing an audio edit. So we wanted the cursor to be as flowing as possible and just do what I ask it. So that way I can just trim to the sections that I want. Welcome to the Camera Junkie podcast. My name's Lewis. I'm also known as Mr. Camera Junkie, and thank you for taking the time and spending it here with me. Today, cut, shrink it, select all, press play. I'm going to be talking about the introduction of what you can expect out of the Camera Junkie podcast. I've been active, and I had referenced before the eating the ums, right? Basically gonna cut this in half, This one's a big so I'm gonna take a big chunk. I've been actively having a weekly live stream on my YouTube channel, and I reached the magical number of 100 consecutive weeks of my Camera Junkie live stream. And throughout the coming up, see that that was a big and so let's see how I'll fix it. Coming up on 2, just have to get rid of the space. My Camera Junkie live stream. And throughout the coming up on 2 years, I think that entire section is like not even needed. So right there, I would probably just highlight this section, delete it, and press play to see how it sounds. Camera Junkie live stream. Coming up on 2 years of my live stream, I've been able to I just, because there was extra words there, this is exactly how I'd be listening to it. So this section here ends with of my Camera Junkie live stream, basically explaining my Camera Junkie live stream, right? Or my podcast, whatever it is. So I say of my Camera Junkie live stream, word for word. Then coming up on 2 years, that's exactly where I'm going to cut it. Of my live stream, because that of my live stream sounds redundant after I just finished it, but I kind of need to have it on the words before because that's how I finished the sentence. So what I would do is I would just eliminate the redundancy section, and I will cut that out and listen to see how that would flow. Junkie live stream. Coming up on 2 years, I've been able to establish. See? Sounds a lot better as far as the, you know, the message that we're trying to. But I don't know if you heard it. I can come over here and press mute real quick. There's a popping sound in there now. My Camera Junkie live stream. Coming up on 2 years, I've been able. No. My Camera Junkie live stream. Coming up on 2 years, I've been. It might have been a fluke, but this is something that I will do just in case. What I think I heard is this little section right here. If I could highlight it, or yeah. There's a little section right there, and what I would do is just shrink it. And because the video file on top is the main part of the magnetic timeline, you're not changing the size or the distance of the spoken words or of the file or the video itself. So just that little nudge on that cut line eliminates that little slight popping. Up on 2 years, I've been able. Okay, and there we go. Not sure if you guys were able to hear it, but definitely it's something that's there. All right. That's why I use these good headphones. They really do make a difference. Years, I've been able to establish and create a. See that little bump there? That's kind of like my marker. I use that as a reference point to begin the next word, because I feel like that's, you know, it might be completely wrong, but I feel like that's where the thought already came into play and my mouth started going. So I'm just gonna click into that, select all, and just bring my cursor slightly in, and then slide that whole section this way. With the magnetic timeline, it keeps everything congruent, everything nice and tight. Then you're able to just create a certain workflow or you're gonna see me closing my eyes a lot, because even though I am using the visuals as a guideline, I concentrate on just hearing it, on just the audio. Workflow or show flow of how I do my live streams. Now, one thing that I hadn't been doing was actually working the most. See that? working the most. But there, bring it in, working the most, and there's definitely a pop there now. Actually working the most. So I think you guys even heard that one. Actually working the most. Okay, so now I'm going to embiggen the timeline here, and I can see the there's no real flow. You could even hear the static there. So the moment I'm going to take that little nubbin off, and right here I'm going to go into this little shield here with like an exclamation mark. You can see how my cursor changes and as I hover around. Sorry if you're hearing the noise, if it's too much for you. But to remove it, we're going to hover over that. It changes to the 2 sideways arrows, and we're just going to drag this in about like 1 millisecond. And listen to how it sounds there. Working the most. No more popping. And it flows now to the point where if you were just listening to it, you wouldn't even know that there was a cut there. What I've been doing was actually working the most out of the content. Sounds good. If you actually have a popping on both sides of the audio, just know that that's available on both sides. And another tip, that once it's highlighted, you can right click and change the type of curve that the audio is actually cutting down to. So as you can see, the one that's selected is the one with the 3 dB plus, right? And it's got like this high curve where it just keeps it high and then cuts it out. You can do linear, an S curve, or the same kind of like aggressive curve but towards the negative at the negative 3 decibel or 3 dB. So those are just options. All right, now I'm gonna shrinkify the timeline again. And one thing that I hadn't been doing was actually working the most out of the content that I've been creating. But my life has changed significantly in this amount of time. I am now currently in let me rewind that. I want to actually take the time off the timeline as well. Significantly in this amount of time. Yeah, that sounds better. That I've been creating. But my life has changed significantly in this amount of time. I am now currently the editor. That was a that I ate right there. Boop. I am now currently the editor for Ecamm and Ecamm Network, and one of my tasks is to actually produce. And one of my tasks is to actually is a filler word, believe it or not, people, and we use it all the time, and it's an absolutely filler word. And whenever you're writing context, you know, the sentence will make sense without the word actually. So I'm actually gonna remove it, and then I'm just gonna snap that out there and listen to it again. And Ecamm Network, and one of my tasks is to produce. Okay. To produce. Okay. So I'm gonna. And one of my tasks is to produce. Okay. It's not flowing as good as I want to right there, because there's like a hiccup in the conversation. I'm gonna nudge it just a bit closer to the word produce, ever so slightly. To produce is to produce. Okay, that sounds like a much better flow. And one of my tasks is to produce. And okay, here's a trick. The Control T, actually no, the T, which is it transition? No, this is where I got a little mixed up yesterday, because when you see me trimming the ends, that's exactly what it's called, trimming. But when you hit the T on the keyboard, it's actually called the trim tool as well. And the trim tool is the one that looks like so. I don't even know how to explain it. Like 2 brackets with a line and arrows pointing out of it on the timeline. Make that what you can out of it. But when you select it on any cut point and you just highlight it, you're able to drag that cut point without changing the timeline's length. Okay, so it allows you to kind of like scoot the edit so that the flow sounds correctly, but maybe where the valleys and the highs of the audio track flow better together by putting the lowest points together where it's inaudible to the listener, to the viewer. Is to produce. Okay, and that just sounds good. One of my tasks is to produce, right? And one of my tasks. Okay, and I did all that work, and the following sentence probably is gonna have me just remove that because I was like, right, remote produce, and I think I'm gonna jump into the remote produce part. But let's see something. It's to produce, right? Remote produce and edit. Okay, so I'm definitely gonna do the remote produce. Right. So let's see where we're at. Right, remote produce. Okay, remote produce, remote word starts right there. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to take that entire chunk out. Excuse me. Okay. Is to remote produce and edit. Is to remote produce and edit. And okay, one of my tasks is to remote produce. One of my tasks is to remote produce and edit. Okay. To remote produce and edit the weekly. Okay, that sounds good. Now I'm just gonna check the video files because there was such a discrepancy on the section that I actually took out. Is to remote produce. It's fine. But going back to the trim tool, what you can do whenever you have some of these cuts, right? And if the words kind of look funky, my trick is to actually select the video file, not the audio for the cut, but the video file, and kind of scoot that up 2 frames so that the video cut edit actually happens 2 frames before the audio actually has a switch, because the audio you wouldn't actually be able to hear it. But what it does is that it allows the gestures or the physical, like, you know, manipulation of your face to kind of match the audio that you're hearing, because whether you believe it or not, like in your mind's eye, there's kind of like that built-in latency for all words. To remote produce. And it just gives a more emphasis on the word or the enunciation of the r from the remote produce. Is to remote produce and edit the weekly podcast. I'll take these 3 little dots off. The weekly podcast called The Flow, hosted by Doc Rock and Katie Fox. And Katie Fox. In boom, big gap here. Big gap. That's just like gone. Katie Fox. In last week's episode, Doc actually had Jared Spink on as a guest. Actually had Jared Spink on as a guest. That was what was supposed to be there. And I ate it, but the gap was Spink on as a guest filling in for Katie. It's a great episode. Katie. It's a great episode, and I would highly suggest that you check it out. One of the things One of the things that Doc started to mention. Okay, I think that I cut that a little too close. So I'm gonna just back up a couple, right? And gonna highlight again and just kind of cut it right here so that there's still more of a breathiness space between those words. And I would highly suggest that you check it out. One of the things that sounds a lot better to me. Doc started to mention. Whoa. We're gonna click here and we're gonna do redo trim. Don't need that. That Doc started to mention was that if you actually have been you see, once again, actually gotta get rid of it. If you cut, remove the word actually and just bring those two together, I know it's gonna make sense. Was that if you have been consistent. Do I need to say more? But I cut that a bit tight, right? You see, and I can start like trying to backspace, but this is where that trim tool comes into play. I just come here and I'm like, okay, that's where the cut should be. And it also brings the video file above it, that 2 frames ahead of the audio cut. So we're right where we need to be. Go right back to it. Have been consistent with your. You have been consistent with your content. You've already been creating a podcast. Content. With your content, you've already been creating a podcast. If you look at that huge gap, that is like Grand Canyon type gaps. Boom. That almost felt like small and hold method because of how much space was in between there. There should have been an echo in that valley. If you have had a weekly live stream for such and such, months, X amount of months that is a podcast. That is horrible. Like, what was I trying to say? I was trying to use words. I swear it. You have to have the ability to laugh at yourself because that was pretty bad. Almost as if I had a coherent thought and I was trying to get it out, but it did not work out. So let's go ahead and listen to that again to see how I'm going to fix it. If you have had a weekly live stream for okay, that section is usable. Okay, if you have had a weekly live stream for such and such, months, X amount of months that is a podcast. Okay, let's go over it again. All right, for such an okay, let me just cut this here. For such and such, months, X amount of months that is a podcast. Okay, for we're gonna cut months is a word. We can use months, okay, because that's a word. Okay, so live stream for months. We're gonna cut this here. X amount of months that that is a. I think I'm gonna take out that other section here and be like, okay. So now let's listen to the jambalaya of words that I said there and see if we created a coherent sentence. You've already been creating a podcast. If you have had a weekly live stream for months, that is a podcast. That makes sense. So we're gonna go with it. And that's how I edit podcasts. Like, hey, you got to work with what you got, right? You got to work with the ingredients that you're given. Make some lemonade. So the one I did my best, y'all. That's all I got to say. For, months that is a podcast. So the one thing that I haven't been doing with my that I have or haven't been doing. So let's see. Is a podcast. So the one thing that I haven't been doing with my weekly, the one thing that I have, right there, that's where I'm gonna cut it. Haven't, and I'm gonna cut it there too. And I'm literally going to conjoin the sounds to make a coherent word. And let's see how that sounds. The one thing that I haven't been doing, and it sounds pretty good. I'm gonna cut this here, right? And just to show you, it has nothing to do with removing. But what I did is I just created a section where I can just kind of dunk the audio down a little bit just to get that to match as far as the peaks. And then I'm also going to grab that little shield once again and give it like a millisecond there. And now we're going to play to see what it sounds like. So the one thing that I haven't been doing, actually, that sounds a bit louder from the haven't side. So let me put this back to normal. So the one thing that I haven't been doing, actually, yeah, what I heard initially, the spike in audio is actually on the second side. Excuse me. So I could just backtrack, right? And all I'm doing is hitting Command Z to undo. I will give this another millisecond of time here, but I'm going to cut here. And I'm going to bring this one down. One thing that I haven't been doing, and that sounds just a little bit better as far as the spike in audio for me. So the one thing, ooh, that I heard a pop there. So the one, and I didn't hear it again. So once again, actually, let me just show you. I see this like the dirt, right? I just call this like the little dirt particles. I just scoot those out. Just take the cut line and I expand them. So the one thing that I haven't been doing with my weekly live stream is repurposing it as what it already was, which was the Camera Junkie podcast. And it already was. Okay. I just heard it, right? And I was letting it process. And I think I'm going to take this chunk here. Already was, which was the Camera Junkie podcast. See, which was that section right here? Gone. So that, and then just give it the title. Is repurposing it as what it already was, the Camera Junkie podcast. I think that just sounds better as far as dialogue, right? The Camera Junkie podcast. And on my weekly, okay, I will cut this in half. Cast. And on my weekly live stream, I would bring my oops. That's something that actually happens. So, for example, this is the way that I edit. If I actually don't have everything highlighted, I'll be able to cut or kind of trim, and because it will only trim the things on the top timeline, then the other, pieces might get a little wonky. But as you can see, I kind of didn't want this section as well. So that's why you always see me press like select all and then do the cuts so that they all go evenly done. But it's also as simple as just basically snapping it to the correct size and you get the same effect. Live stream, I would bring my too much space. I would bring my thoughts, experiences, and my hopes and expectations of camera gear, live stream production, filler words. Gone. camera gear, live stream production software, audio software, audio and visual, nerding out, so to speak. Okay, that's staying. Whoa. Okay, that also happens in Final Cut Pro. So it happens for those of us who use the MX Master mouse with a little scroll wheel. Sometimes the scroll wheel gets a little squirrely. And at this point, let's say something like that happens, right? Let me try to replicate it. Boom. And we're like, oh man, I lost my place. What do I do? Well, that's when you do Control or Shift Z, which brings everything into play and basically showing you how far along on the edit you are. So out of the 22 minutes, we've removed some time, just here and there by those little like micro cuts and adjustments. But we're basically reaching the 2 minute 15 second mark on the 22-minute timeline, and that allows us to see where we are as far as the cursor. We click back on it and we enlarge the timeline once again so that we're back to where we were. That's how we get our place out, so to speak. And that was gone out, so to speak. Visual, nerding out, so to speak. And that was, and it still is actually, speak. And that was, and it still is, and that was, and it still, and it still, and it needs to go. So we, I don't know if I'm able to show you exactly what I'm looking at. But the peaks and the valleys are basically what we're looking at. And I try to cut in all the valleys because that's where the ending of the words are. So it's natural for the conversation and the flow of it. But you also have to be aware because sometimes there's like what I say, the breathiness of a word, right? Like the word the HE is like releasing of a breath. So that you have to be specific, or like the end of certain S words in the syllables that you're not cutting them off too short, that the word no longer makes sense. Was still is actually was still is actually nerding out, so to speak. And that was still is actually I said actually and that was, and the it is what I need to get rid of, so to speak. And that was, and still is actually that makes a lot more sense. And still is no ums. Let's get rid of that. Was, and still is actually, the Camera Junkie live stream is the highlight of my week. It is actually, the Camera Junkie live stream is audio and visual, nerding out, so to speak. And that was, and still is actually the highlight of my week. And is okay. I'm trying to make sense of what I just said. So let me bring that section back up, out, so to speak. And that was, and still is actually, the Camera Junkie live stream is okay. The Camera Junkie live stream cut is what I was talking about. So this section of audio and video here says the Camera Junkie live stream. Okay. just that section, is actually supposed to be here in this section. So I'm going to grab it and I'm going to squeeze it to where it's supposed to go. That simple. That's Final Cut Pro with the magnetic timeline. So nothing else changes. I basically swapped it. Now let's see how that sounds. Nerding out, so to speak, the Camera Junkie live stream, and that was, and still is actually, is the highlight of my week. We're gonna get rid of the is, the redundant is. Get rid of that there. The Camera Junkie live stream, and that was, and still is actually, the highlight of my week, and is something that I enjoy. That makes sense to me, right? Because I think that was the expression that I was trying to get out, as I tell you guys all the time that this is the highlight of my week. Now, there's way too much podcast left to keep going for tonight. But I do have to say that that was a perfect point to leave this off and let you know once again how appreciative I am of the Camera Junkie crew. You guys are the best, and you guys are what make all of this worth it week in and week out. So as always, thank you for taking the time and hanging out here with me. Hopefully I brought some value in the style and the tips and tricks that I use for editing. There's so much more intricacies when it comes to all of these edits that you guys will have to let me know if that's something that you want me to visit again, you know, to spend some more time on it. Because if not, then there's a lot of cool camera stuff as a camera junkie that, you know, we could be talking about, especially for next week. There's a lot of things, especially towards the end of this month, especially the new ZV E1 camera, which is their full frame ZV type camera. I talked about it before in a rumor episode, and what I hope that it came with. I'm also going to listen to that and compare to what it actually has. So I think that's going to be a little fun. And yeah, let's go ahead. I'm just letting you guys know, because of the edit and a couple of circumstances that Mr. Paul Duncan knows about, we just took a little bit of extra time in the Discord hangout today. I don't have a Cities Gall. I don't have a Cities Gall this week. We're going to have to wait for next week. So I didn't have the time to pull one up. So let me go ahead and check the messages, check the chat with y'all. Okay, this is where we left off. I didn't even see this one. I was already, your audio's gone. I said, oh no, that's mine. That's messed up, because I would have been looking. I would have been, is it okay? Hey Albert, how you doing, sir? Saying hello. The audio, oh, I'm sorry, I just read it mentally and just got stuck in editing. It goes, for those pops, I also put a quick audio crossfade between the two clips. Select both clips and option T. Well, the option T would it actually, because I have mine as cross dissolve. Actually, not the high. I don't think cross dissolve will actually do anything to audio. It would actually have to be like the cross fade, because that will only like deal with the audio channel. So that's a good tip as far as the, oh, let me go back to Ecamm. As far as the crossfader. Absolutely. Thank you, Randy. I appreciate it. Hi, Gretchen. How are you? Thank you for stopping in. And Paul saying hello to Gretchen and to Albert. Everybody's saying what's up to each other. Michael saying it's fun to watch my process. Appreciate it. Says good to view your workflow. I picked up a few tips. Thanks for this stream. Appreciate you, sir. Says Lewis, that was a great dinner time. Oh, that didn't pop up. Lewis, this was great dinner time entertainment for us. Bob had never seen this kind of editing. Impressive, my friend. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But you guys, as always, thank you all for hanging out. I am always happy to bring value to the live stream. This is something that's been going on for, officially today, 120 consecutive weeks and no sign of stopping in sight. So if you are interested, we'll be doing it all over again next Saturday, same time, same place, the Camera Junkie channel here on YouTube, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday without missing a beat. So take care of yourselves and each other, and I can't wait to see all of your smiling faces right here on the Camera Junkie live stream. Have a great week, and we'll see you all next time.